Hey, how are you? Hope you're doing really well today. So, question for you. Who here is a perfectionist or a recovering perfectionist? Okay, I know I am, and I've just written another blog post about this topic. I think it's really important because what we tend to do, especially if we're struggling with imposter syndrome or our confidence, is we put a lot on this being perfect, being perfect at what we're doing, what we're saying, how we're showing up in the world, and it can really hold us back. The way it affects us in terms of feeling like an imposter is we have that feeling of not being good enough, of not being able to show up, because unless we are a perfect way, or we say the perfect thing, or we do the perfect thing, then if we can't do that, we must be an imposter, because if we weren't, we'd be able to do it perfectly, right? So it's that kind of, we get in our own way, we stop being able to show up because we get caught up in this cycle of, I need to be perfect, and unless I'm perfect, then I'm not good enough and I can't show up in that way. However, perfection is an illusion. It's not actually a real concept. And what I mean by that is my idea of perfect is not going to be the same as yours or your boss's or somebody else's, because it's a very subjective idea. So, and really bring that to light. Think about your favourite film, okay, and a film you absolutely love. To you, it's absolutely perfection. I bet there's a lot of people out there that would disagree with you, that they either don't think it's that good, absolutely hate it, as well as obviously the people that do like it, because we all have our own views on things. It's the same with food or books, and it's what makes life really interesting. But perfection's the same concept. What I think is perfect isn't going to be the same as what you think is perfect. And what we do is we tend to hold ourselves to a much higher standard than other people would hold us to. So again, we then get ourselves locked into this, I can't show up in this way unless I'm perfect, but actually our idea of perfect isn't going to be the same as somebody else's, and actually somebody else is maybe on a completely different page to you in terms of what that needs to look like. So that's how it kind of links maybe into being an imposter, and I think a potential reframe around this is around good is good enough. And I released the blog post last night, and there was a message on LinkedIn that came through to me, and somebody had said about using the 80-20 rule, and I thought that's a really good idea. If you got 80% in an exam, I don't know about you, I'd be really pleased with that. So if we could maybe get to the point of being at 80% of something, then is that good enough? And actually that's a really quite a high standard. Also, if you are looking at that additional 20% that you think that you need to be putting into that, is that 20% actually 20% of your energy, or actually is it going to be a lot more energy for quite a small additional gain? At which point, put your energy into the activities that are actually going to really be adding the value. When I came to write the blog post, and when I say right at the beginning about being a recovering perfectionist, I don't think it's something that necessarily goes away. It's something you always need to be catching yourself on. The irony is I write blog posts in batches, and then sort of release them over months. And I'd written the blog post a while ago. Last Sunday I came to release it, read through it, couldn't quite push the button, okay, and then I've kind of been tweaking it all week and thinking about the 80-20 rule. It was at 80%. I don't think it's at 100% now, but it's that kind of, the irony of the fact is it took me a week to polish things that didn't really need polishing. I know there were a few things I went in and amended, and then when I reread them I amended them back to what they were. So I was holding myself back. My aim is to get that message out there to try and help people build their confidence, overcome the imposter syndrome, maybe see things from a different perspective. Yet my own perfectionist tendencies held me back from doing that for almost a week. So it's not something I think that comes easily, but it is something to be aware of and to kind of have that reframe and be conscious, because what we don't want to do is be holding ourselves back. You know, if I played that out and waited to the point where I thought it was 100%, I probably would never release that blog post. I would never get to that point where I thought this was good enough. And I've had a lot of messages on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram around this, which shows that this message is resonating. It may not be somebody else's perfect, it's not my perfect, but it's good enough. And that's what I want to try and get across. Hold yourself to a high standard. I'm not saying lower your standards totally, but think about maybe that 80%. Think about what's good enough. Think about what your end goal is and achieving that, rather than waiting and holding yourself back to the point you think you are perfect on this. That will then create the momentum, that creates the action that moves you forward, that builds your confidence. By building your confidence, you're building also your competence, which also then becomes this nice cycle to help you break feeling like you're an imposter and that you're not good enough. I hope that resonates. I hope that makes you kind of maybe start to think about those perfectionist tendencies in a different way. As I said, it's not bad to hold yourself to a high standard. I think that is actually a really positive thing. But be realistic. Don't hold yourself to such a high standard that you could never achieve it. Nobody could ever achieve it, because what you're then doing is holding yourself back, getting in your own way, and stopping the world seeing your true genius, your true message, being able to show up as you are, because you think that you're not good enough. And that's not the case. You are. You're awesome. Go out and prove it to the world. Okay. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Bye for now.